Hello, everyone out there. Thank you for joining another segment of Why Don't We Test Them. I have my very first guest with me today. Can you introduce yourself, baby?
Uh,
That is
I am Lynn
beautiful. It
Jordan,
is
otherwise
so
known
good
as
to
the
meet you,
Urban
Lynn
Lady Prepper.
Jordan. Okay, so today, you guys, I wanted to try to touch on,
Same here.
dealing with narcissistic people and having narcissistic relationships and how we try to create boundaries with dealing with these type of people and how we navigate around the situations that comes with dealing with narcissistic people or whatever. Because we do you know what a narcissistic person is? First of all, that's the question.
Yeah. hmm Yeah, well, just to start off, my website, urbanladyprepper.com, the focus
Right. Okay.
is practical preparedness for single moms and single females. And I do touch upon
Right.
not I don't really go too deep
Mm-hmm.
into relationship things. My goal is just to
Oh, okay.
I'm not a single. First of all, I don't have kids, but I am a I've been widowed
Okay.
twice, so I know what it's like to just have life-changing situations. And I understand sometimes it can get very lonely, and if you're used to having someone
Right.
in your life, it's difficult to make that adjustment. Because I got married in '92, first husband passed in
Oh my
2011, then I
God.
got married again in 2015, and then he passed away in 2022. So
Right.
I
Okay.
was married since I got married. I got married at 23.
Okay.
I'm now 55. So most of my life I was with someone, and it was a very hard adjustment.
Right.
It's a hard adjustment when you're used to having somebody there all the time and then you're not. So I understand those feelings of, okay, how do I function
Mm-hmm.
now as a single person? And then also, even though I
Right.
don't have kids, I know plenty of single
Okay.
women who do. I'm a stepmom, I'm a grandmother by that way. Um,
Uh-huh.
so it's and I fell into that trap of that loneliness and just missing that comfort,
Exactly.
that security, that being
Right.
with a man. And
Right.
I'm a
The
Gen Xer,
standards
so
of
I'm a
stuff
woman
we
of a certain
what they
age, and you
can,
grew up with
yeah.
certain things. Like you should be, you should be married, you should have a
Mhm.
man, or just navigating the life with a partner and everything. And I
Right,
believe
right.
that sometimes we can make some poor choices when it comes to men,
Right.
because we're not necessarily coming from the right
Mhm.
headspace when we get into this new relationships, because you're still kind of
Yeah, yeah.
you're kind of wounded, you're still trying to figure it out. And if you've been and the biggest thing that I noticed, that once I became a widow the first time,
Right.
was your
Right.
identity gets wrapped up in this other person, and then you really
Yeah.
don't know who you are. You have this whole new self
Uh-huh.
discovery. It was to the point where when I moved somewhere and I could paint
Right.
the walls any color I wanted, I couldn't pick
Right.
anything,
Yeah.
because I was so used to having to
Yeah.
compromise for somebody else. It's like, well, I want to pick something I like that he doesn't hate, and now all of a sudden I have all these choices to make, and you're almost paralyzed by it.
Yeah.
So you're in a very vulnerable, unique space. So having been there, I know how it feels
Right.
to when you get somebody that pays attention to you and makes you feel pretty when you feel
Okay.
sad and miserable and crappy, and you feel like you look like hell
No.
and you're at your worst. Someone comes in,
Oh,
especially if
man.
they're good
That's
looking and they have more than two brain cells to rub together,
yeah.
and you know maybe you're missing some of the what, and
Yeah.
they bring it,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, yeah, I remember what that was like. It's pretty awesome. But then
Mhm.
just like
Right.
men like to say that
That's
the crazy is the best. I think that the
listen.
equivalent for
Listen. Okay.
I've had a guy say, it's true, like the crazy stuff's the best, and I said back then, I said, yeah, but at some point you
Yeah.
got to get out of bed,
Yeah, and you don't want to remain crazy all your
and
life.
then what?
Trust me, baby.
She
It's a limit
crazy.
that should come with that.
So
You know what
I,
I'm saying? So yeah, like what? But that's kind of crazy that a man
yeah,
actually told you that,
it's
because I
yeah,
know that I have had, I'm sorry, had some men to tell me that I turned them on when I act crazy, and I was like, ain't that kind of weird, Like I don't know what kind of narcissistic temper tantrum that is, but I had a man that he liked to make me mad. And then when I get married to him, they used to turn him on. I just feel like that was the most weirdest thing ever. And I don't know. I don't like to do it.
Yes, and it's
Yeah.
it's when you mentioned it, I had
Mhm.
immediately one person in mind. Obviously, we shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I should be honest. When I think about it, it's more than one
Right, right.
person. Again, I think when you're in a certain position, you would tend to attract a certain thing. But anyway, I just found it interesting because they often accuse women of,
Yeah.
oh, well, they always
Yeah,
want the
that is
bad
a good
boy and
point.
they always want to be treated like crap in order to feel something, which I thought was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you're the same ones that it always want to talk about how you want a crazy chick. And then and
Right.
like you said, if I'm acting like myself and not getting out of pocket, then I'm boring. You always got to try and
I
goad me
mean, like
into
you do
make
they
me
want to see
mad,
how
or
far they can
poke
push you.
poke the bear, and
Yes,
just try to
they be
find,
trying to see
and
how
then
far
turn
they can
around and call
push
me
you.
crazy when I
And I done
finally get out
had
of character.
men and just people in general that like to see how far they can push you before you get mad and before you too far with dealing with the situation.
So they can go, see. Yeah, and one thing that he did say one point, and
No, we do.
was, all women are crazy. And I'm like, no, what? No, all women are not crazy. Maybe you just pick crazy people.
Yeah, that,
Maybe maybe it's you. Maybe it's not
yeah,
you're
you
picking
just
them.
said
But don't try to
right.
fit me
No,
into
you just
that
said
mold,
something
because
a
one
while
thing,
ago.
I
You
may
was
be a
like,
lot of things, but
what you're
crazy ain't
going
one.
through at the moment or what you're around, you attract it to you, and I wholeheartedly believe it. I believe that the fact that you know right now I'm out of a job or whatever, and so I live with my mom and I dine it on my out. So I feel like I don't attract the best people towards me because I'm not in a good situation for myself. Do that make sense to you?
Absolutely, it totally does. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yes.
And one of the things I
Okay.
address in one of the podcasts, which
Okay.
is, oh boy, I had a couple that was sort of relationship focused, and one was called
Okay.
the new He-Man Women Haters Club.
Okay.
Men with mics, the new He-Man Women Haters Club, and that was one of the things that it's
Hmm.
just very, and it kind of
Right.
touched upon the whole feeling a certain way. And when you listen to these
Mhm.
guys talk about how terrible we are and how we're
Oh
washed
man,
up and we're
it's like
used
this.
up and we should be half price, and they're saying all these awful things. And listen, I'm not in, I'm in a very, now I
Yeah.
understand your position completely, because again, just 2022, I ended up having to
Oh, okay.
move. Yeah, I had to
Right.
pack up and move. I couldn't stay where I was after my husband passed away.
Oh my
So
God, I'm
I
sorry.
ended up completely
Hmm.
downsizing in a completely different
Yeah.
area that's,
Yeah, that's
on
right.
the come
That's
up,
right.
sort of thing. And, you got to do what you got to do.
Uh-huh.
And I don't feel, and I feel like I'm just
Hmm.
doing the best I can. But
Right.
again, you find
Yeah.
yourself feeling a certain way, and maybe you don't feel lovable. And then,
Hmm.
one of the things I said was, you just want to make sure that
Right.
you don't just take anybody because you feel a certain way, because you have to be able to do, you want to be, how did I put it? You
Okay.
want to be the fruit at the top of the tree that the eagles aim for. You don't want that, if you're putting out that
Hmm.
kind of a certain kind of a desperation vibe, or I'm so
Hmm.
unlovable vibe, or you're in your
Yeah.
feelings but you're also projecting that. You're going to attract that low,
Right.
you're going to attract the low hanging fruit. You're going to get, you don't want to be the, what, how did I put it?
Right. And
You don't
so
want to be
yes,
stuck with the
I feel
squirrel on
like
the
when my
ground just trying,
vibrations are low,
looking
and I
for a
do
nut.
know when my vibrations are low because I'm a naturally happy person, and so when I'm not at my best, my vibrations are low. So I feel like they do not attract the best people towards me, not even friends, not even men. If I was working, I had some of the most damaged people coming around me trying to do weird stuff to me. And I just feel like if your vibration is low, you're able to attract it to you. If your vibration is high, you attract, like-minded people to you. Like they come happy, they come want to support you, they come want to help you. And this is with men, females, your parents,
Hmm.
siblings, cousins, whoever you deal with. Like you have to deal with these kind of boundaries in your relationship where the characteristics have
Hmm.
labels, and narcissist is just one of them for me. I have to deal with
Oh yeah, yeah, and they prey on that because they figure
yes, because I
that
feel
you
like
are
the
so
vibration
anxious to
is
be
low or
loved, or that you're
something.
so
Yes.
desperate to be
Mm-hmm.
loved, or that you so need to have somebody in your life. And they
Right.
figure, okay, well, then this person will be
Okay,
easy for me to
exactly. Yes.
manipulate
Okay, so
because
I
they're
didn't think
already
I was
feeling a
thinking.
certain way about themselves.
Yeah. I said, I didn't think that I was
And it's
tripping
very
because I be
easy to take
thinking like,
advantage of that.
is it like
Hmm.
that? Is that what it is? You know, I be trying to put some things together to make some things make sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because the
Yeah.
people, I mean, you figure
Mm-hmm.
if you're a confident person, if you are secure in yourself, if you're, and no matter what your station in life, I mean, it doesn't, you know, you might not feel like you're in the best spot
Uh-huh.
in your life, or you may feel that, okay, this is kind of a low
Right.
point for me. But if you
Right.
say, you know what, I just need to adapt, this is temporary, this
Yeah.
isn't forever, I'm going to
Yeah.
get through it, I'm going to do what I need to
Right.
do, I'm not a lesser person because of things that have been outside of my control. And
Mm-hmm.
you won't attract that person, because a narcissist needs
Right.
somebody that is in that low place that can be manipulated, because they want that,
Exactly.
they crave that adulation, they crave that control. And
Yeah.
if you're just cleaving onto them because you want someone so
And
desperately,
sometimes
then
it
that's perfect for
and
them,
sometimes
that
it's not
fuels
even
that
that you
fire, and then
just
you know
want
they
that
can
genuine
do all that
relationship with
fun
somebody.
stuff.
Sometimes you just could be like a naturally genuine person like me. And so I'm the type of person that if I want to be happy, I want the people around me happy. So I'm gonna do whatever it is that you want or that you need or that I feel like can make that environment happy. And people take advantage of that. And that's the point that I'm trying to get to with this narcissist uh relationship. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They take it's the taking advantage part, because I think
Mm-hmm.
especially people who are narcissists, because
Mm-hmm.
they're good manipulators,
What did
because
you
they make
said
you
you
think that you're getting what you need out of
okay.
it, or that you're getting what you need, and
You
you're
just told
totally
the truth
not.
right there. Like I had to highlight that moment because this is what I've been on right here, and I was like, I can't be the only person that feel this way. I know it's somebody who know how to touch on this basis with me, and we can highlight this to people because people don't believe that they are like this, and that's scary. That is scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, part of narcissism is not being able to accept criticism. And as soon as someone says, you know, you do this and it's not
What
cool,
you
they're going to, oh, no, I
said.
don't. Or you do that. You know, they always want to do that
Mhm.
turnaround. And they always
Right.
got to do the turnaround. And it's like, no, this isn't, you know,
Hmm.
accept the criticism. This is how one of the first signs of dealing with a narcissist is if you're
Right.
in
Right.
whatever kind of relationship it is. It doesn't have to be romantic, it can be any relationship, and you realize that
Yeah.
they're doing these certain things, and you're getting kind of like that little knot in your stomach, or that red flag pops up, and you say to them, it's like, you know, we were talking about different
Right.
stuff, and I really don't like it when you do such and such, because it makes me feel a certain way. Oh,
Right.
no, no, there's something wrong with you, or you're crazy, or you're being irrational. It's like,
Exactly.
no, you're just being an ass right now, and I'm trying to find a nice way to tell
Right.
you, you know, if we're going to
I know that.
communicate,
Right.
don't do, you
So
know, don't do that, or please don't do that, can we work on that? And immediately it becomes,
Okay,
oh,
so
no,
I,
no,
I
it's your
actually
fault
had
that
that kind
I'm
of
this way.
relationship
It's
with
like,
my kids' dad or
no.
whatever. Like everything that we went through, I could never tell him, well, he was wrong in the situation. It was always just me. I'm the one. I do this and I do that, and that's why people react that way. Baby, you're not gonna sit here and make me feel like I'm such a horrible person that you automatically got to act like an asshole toward me. Sometimes I only have to do that to two people for them to start acting like an asshole. You're not gonna sit here and make me feel like I'm just a horrible person to be around, and that it is okay for you to be the type of person that you are to me, which is not good. Hey, hello.
And then it becomes, if I'm so horrible, then why am I here? So if I'm terrible, and if I'm crazy,
Yeah.
so what is it that, if I'm so awful, why is he still here?
It's
So apparently there's something
yeah.
about me that's keeping him here. So what is it? Is it the maid service? Is it easy sex? Is it, or am I actually a good person?
Hmm.
And if I find
Right.
my self worth and realize how good I am, he realizes I'm going to leave, or I'm going to be like, what was I thinking? Why am I even? Because
Man, do
oh
you
God,
hear
when you have that moment of clarity of like, what the hell did I see in this person? It is
man
like being
like,
rung. It's
like
like that
do you hear
Taco Bell
me?
gong. It's like
Okay. Like I
bong.
love when my clarity come through dealing with anybody because people really have you in this little stupor moment, making you feel like things is this way when it's totally not. So once you come out of that and you be sitting here realizing, oh man, I was such a dummy. I was such a dummy. Like, and I be thinking, I'm the type of person, I'm very spiritual, so I'm always thinking like, what was I going through? Why were my vibrations that low for me to feel like I had to deal with that? I get to questioning myself. I don't get to questioning why people are the way that they are. I'm like, what is it about me at that moment that made me allow that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, and it's hard
I
to
do
blame yourself, especially if you're
hold it.
already in a certain place. But the best defense is just to I think having
Yeah.
expectations is the worst way to approach a relationship, or whatever. And I don't have a whole ton of
Right.
experience with a whole bunch of people,
Hmm.
but as far as romantic, but just in general in life, and
Hmm.
having met people from all walks, from all
Yeah.
status,
Yeah.
I mean, all of that. Having expectations is the worst thing, because
Right.
you've already put a certain limitation on them, and then
Oh
that's going to
man,
change your behavior, because
there
you're
you
going to
go.
treat them based on
You
what you put
on
on
my
them.
targets right now. I'm loving
So
this like I'm soaking this up. You just don't know because it's really like this. It's really like this, and I just needed somebody else to get on here and say that so that I don't feel like I'm just on here complaining because
yeah,
uh,
it's tough once you just go into something and not say, okay, well, this person looks a certain way, or this person has these certain attributes, they're probably going to
yeah,
be like. Once you stop doing that, I think your intuition becomes better,
right,
because you're
yeah, it
seeing
do.
them more clearly for who they actually are, if that makes sense. And
Mm,
then when and the red flags, they become a whole lot redder as soon as you see them, trying to isolate you, because
mm-hmm,
narcissists are very good. They're like, okay, once this girl realizes, once this woman
mm-hmm.
realizes that she, because they already know
They do
most of
this.
the time when they have a prize and they want to snatch somebody up, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, she's
Yep,
pretty, she's smart, I like her body, she
yep,
can cook, she's a hard worker, she's got all of these great
yeah.
qualities. I'm not worthy of her, but I can't let her know that. And the second she recognizes this in herself, she's going to leave.
Yeah,
So that's why a lot of times these narcissists, they want to
man,
isolate you. They want to keep you from your friends. They want to keep you from your family.
mhm,
They want to keep beating you down
right.
in certain ways, either verbally or with those, what they say, gaslighting, all these different, which I don't fully understand that term. I don't know
Talk
why
about
it escapes me,
gaslighting.
but that whole, I guess
Yeah,
it's
the
the same thing as
gaslighting,
poking at
that's
you
exactly what it
and
is. It's
making you
basically
doubt
what we're sitting
yourself.
up here talking about now, where
You
people
know,
try to manipulate the situation to make you think that you're not crazy. I mean, I'm sorry, that you are the one that's crazy in the situation, and they're not the ones that are, causing the harm in the
mm-hmm.
relationship. So that's what gaslighting is. It's basically what we're talking about.
Yeah, and then you have to get your in. You have to. I
Excuse me.
get. There's certain words that I hate the term triggered, because it's kind of overused. But one thing that will make me instantly have that moment of clarity
Right.
about a person,
Okay.
if
Yeah.
someone calls me a liar, or someone
Okay.
calls me crazy, because
I
there's two things
know.
I'm not. And it's
I
like,
hate
wait a
for
minute,
somebody to
where
take
did
me
that
that I'm
even come
crazy too,
from?
because usually the term
Where did that
crazy
come from?
only comes up when
So
people realize that, oh, you're not as slow as I thought you were. I can't play these games and get away with this shit. So people start calling you crazy because you start paying attention to patterns.
yeah,
You start paying attention to
and
behavior. You start paying attention to the way people treat you. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You just start, your eyes open up, baby. And so you're crazy for that because you can see through people who like to walk around with these little fabricated lies to feel like they're this person or they're that person and that they're not a shitty person, which in fact they do be, but they don't like to say that. They don't like to hold accountability for that. They like to throw rocks behind their hands. So yes, and that is all a form of gaslighting, baby. Yes.
hmm yeah, and I just got into the habit. And I don't know if
Uh-huh.
it's just the couple of experiences between
Mhm.
especially work
Yeah.
relationships, and I don't know if it's a combination of work relationships and romantic relationships, but I just got to, and it doesn't help that I'm a Gen
Okay.
Xer and a Taurus, because I mean, once we get to the point where we're done, we just done, and I will look you dead ass in the eye and go,
Uh-huh.
look,
I know that's right.
don't I don't you, right
Yeah.
what you're doing right now, I see it for
And
what
they
it
hate
is.
when it's
So
people like that who
don't do
can
that. Just don't,
recognize these types of of
because I
manipulations
can't.
and abuse early on. They don't like people who pay close attention to things, who can call out things that they wish that they could hide in thin air everybody because everybody just not oblivious, you know what I'm saying? Everybody not walking around like they in this little maze that they came out of. Some of us actually are using our brains.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or you've seen, or you can, the my first late husband used to say all the
Man,
time, if
yes.
someone would repeat a behavior, or they have a certain pattern, like you said, they have a
Mhm.
certain pattern,
Okay, period.
and he would always say, "Yep, we've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends." And I do that
Hmm.
now. I found that that's a very good
Yeah.
way for me to recognize a situation and a relationship. There's one thing my mom used to
You
say. She
right
says, "How
there.
you begin a relationship is how it will continue and how it will end." So if you leave
Mhm.
so if you start a relationship and the person is
Right.
already gaslighting, or they're treating you a certain way, and it kind of makes you, squint. If it gives you a little bit of screw face, you kind
Yeah,
of squint, or you kind of
I
like,
know what you
did he
mean.
just did he
Yeah.
just say that,
Oh
or did
Lord,
this
my
did this person just say this to me? And you know
God.
you can say then, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
all
Okay.
right, I see where this is. I've seen this movie before, and I think as a person, if you say that to yourself often enough,
Right.
and you know how it's going to end, then it's like, all right, I know I can't even waste my time with this.
Hmm.
And I find that that works with relationships, with jobs, with
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
with life
I mean,
experiences.
yeah.
You
Okay, so
know,
yeah,
but
I've
yeah.
also noticed, like the patterns and the things with me, but see, this is where okay, I have been single, let's say probably about 8, 9, 10 years. It's been a long time. I have not been like in a relationship. I have had dealings with men over the past few years, but nothing too serious. Because for one, I recognize a lot of red flags early on or whatever. So as soon as men start playing with me, I'm the type I used to be. Because right now I'm going through that whole celibacy thing. But when I was still entertaining them, I was going through the whole whatever you do to me, I do to you phase. I could not stand it, man. You get tired of matching energy with people or whatever. And men, they like to pick you at your lowest, and that's what it was. This one
Mm-mm.
person, he knew that my vibration was low. I messed around and I told him what I was going through, and he took advantage of that, honey. And he thought that I had to deal with him. I had to deal with Mr. Situation, and I had to deal with that inconsistency because he felt like I did not deserve better. I hate them type of people. Do
And
you
that's the
hear
thing. I
me?
mean, it's always the dustiest dudes that don't think, that act like they gotta act, that act like,
Yes.
oh, okay, you
Okay.
don't
Like for
deserve me.
real,
I'm
I'm
like,
not
okay,
making
well then why you
sense.
here then? All right, I
Yeah,
got something.
it
So
is.
what
It
is it?
is.
Is it magic? I like to think that it's magic.
It,
Is
it,
it the cooking?
it
Is it the
be
fact
good
that
sex,
I'm
honey. Or
washing your
sometimes you
drawers?
might
What
be the
is
only
what's
person that
keeping
make
you
them
here if
feel
you're
like
so
somebody
great?
because they probably go around other people, and them people probably make them feel inadequate, so they come around who they think is a nobody and shit on that person, and that's the person who they treat bad. That's the person that uplift their spirit, make them feel like something or somebody. I tell you, I done dealt with this and all types of people. I hate it. I hate it so bad.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't match anything. I especially in a bad way. I don't want to. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling a certain way, if I'm feeling down on myself or whatever, I don't. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that if you're getting with someone who is not giving you what you need, or is making you feel worse and not better, because if you're with somebody and the sex is great, like I said, at some
Mm-hmm.
point you got to get out of bed. And if they
Right.
disappoint you in other ways, is it worth it? If you're going to be with somebody that's just going to make you feel
Right.
bad, is going to make you, and they're just basically
Right.
warming your couch and using
Yes.
your resources and not bringing anything to the party except that, look, I can get something that I can put batteries in, and I don't have to worry about whether or not their drawers need
I know this
washing. If
right.
they're hungry,
I know
beg
this
them to
right,
take out the
honey.
trash.
I'm definitely the
I
type of
don't have
person
to
I
do
feel like
any of
shit. I can
that.
do bad by myself, and so I feel like that makes me a strong woman. I know that we do need men. I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, a
Yep.
woman don't need no man because she can do it all herself." Because that is right. I do need.
No, I don't do that. And it's, I'm not one of
Yeah.
those people. Even though my whole thing is I do want to empower women to be
Mm-hmm.
more prepared. Even say that there's two things that I do
Yeah.
is I say, you know what, don't take any. Basically, I say in so many words, don't settle. You want to.
Okay.
If you're in a position where you're out of a relationship and you're healing, whether it's a divorce and now you've got kids, you got to figure it out, or you're widowed
Yeah.
and now you got to figure it out. Whatever it is, now that you're in this alone time,
Right.
this is the time to not think about how
Mm-hmm.
lonely you are, or how you're going to find somebody, or how you're going to make it, because
Right.
again, you're putting out that lack,
Yeah.
energy, you're putting out that lack emotion, you're putting out that I
Yeah.
need, instead of going with, look, I have this sacred time to spend with my kids, I have this
Yeah.
time to
Okay.
work on me now.
You're
And I
right.
said, we ladies are not
Yeah.
perfect. We're bringing baggage from previous
Mm.
relationship, we have our own traumas. Well, me may have made some bad decisions,
Yeah.
and you want to kind of get,
Because I don't have a
wash
lot.
that stank
I
off
don't have some men
before,
tell me
you
that
might meet a
I
great
tend
guy
to
and then you're
judge
bringing this
all men and put
baggage.
them all in this category and in these boxes if they are. They're like, but see, when I do that, it's because I'm noticing some kind of red flag from a previous dealing. So like, you can't help but box and categorize men in the same thing. Which I understand why they do that to women too, which ain't fair because it don't be everybody's situation.
Yeah,
But we do tend to put people in a box.
yeah. No, you do. I mean, you can only go.
Hmm.
You can't. You can't. have standards. You can't set new standards, and
Right, right,
you can't
right.
set new standards unless you're familiar with why you have them in the first
Uh-huh.
place. So if you're saying, okay, I recognize manipulation when I see it, I can tell
Mm-hmm.
that the reason why he didn't text me all day it wasn't because he's busy. It's
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
if he really wanted contact, he would have made that contact.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it just I'm
Oh
second place or
yeah.
I'm third place. Is that where I want to be? Yeah, and if do I really need that much
Yeah.
person taking all that time in my life right now? Do
You
I
know, but
really
that's
need that?
very
Or can
grown
I be
that you know
using this
you
time to
said that
grow, you
because
know?
a lot of time women and men come into these relationships and they feel like they had to be number one in that moment of the relationship without even understanding what that person is all about. And I think that was my problem too. I ain't gonna sit up here and admit that for myself with this one person that I did want to take serious. His his kids came first, of course. His job came second. And I was like, well, dang, when you gonna make time for me or whatever? Because like
Hmm.
he could never find the time to come see me or, allow me to come see him. And I ain't like that because you're always working. And when you're not working, you have to deal with your kids or whatever. And I understand that because you got multiple baby mamas, multiple kids. So you got to make sure all that is straight and squared away. So you're right. We had to sit here and wonder if we feel like coming into third place in people's lives. And this is the grace that a lot of us don't get blessed with because people feel like we automatically have to deal with it just because they want you. You can't just have me and think that I'm gonna just deal with anything, baby. If you're not able to give the max, then stay away. Yeah,
Yeah, and,
yeah,
but that's also boundaries though. That's where you have to set the boundaries. If you I mean, me personally, I can't, you know. How many baby mamas you got?
yeah,
Are any of them psycho? How many kids you got? I can't, you know, and it's there's a couple of things going on. I don't need somebody from your past want
right.
to give me a
Oh,
hard time, and I don't have I am not getting out of character in the
yeah,
street. I don't need to be getting in fights with people. No, no. So if there's any of that going on, then I absolutely cannot. But if it's just a
yeah.
situation where you know what, they're divorced, they got a couple of kids, they have the ex-wife, you know, and that's
Oh,
cool. You know, I was a third wife to my last husband, so I knew, you know, and but at that point, it's like, okay,
right.
well, I know that you're working and you
Yeah,
have these things you have to take care
kids.
of. Where do I fit in here? Let's just be real clear from the beginning because I'm not. I'm got.
Right.
I have enough interests. I have enough hobbies and interests to where I'm not a clingy person. Like if you can't see me because you've got, you know, you're taking the weekend off with your kid. You know, this is your weekend with the kids, and you're going to take them wherever. You know what? That's totally cool.
Mhm.
Spend time with your kids. You know, I don't have a problem with that. I don't need to be the center of their universe
Yeah,
because I have my own
that,
interests and hobbies. Because like I don't
yeah.
want them clinging all over me when I'm trying to get something done. You know, I'm kind of like I'm kind of I've been
Oh, yeah.
described as a cat. It's like when I want you, I'll come around and be all up in it, and then it's as soon as I'm done, it's like
Oh,
you know
man.
what, bye. I'm
Right.
like, do I really do that? And both my
That,
husband, yeah, kind of. And then I thought about it. I said, you know what? They're
mhm.
probably right. It's like, but it goes, but that's you have to kind of set that up because the second husband, he was kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's hang. Like, no, 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 dude, you know, I'm a musician. I'm doing websites.
Right.
You know, right now I'm doing a podcast. I think that's the only thing that's kind of kept me from rose
Oh
my
my gosh,
vibration
that's
up,
so
which
beautiful, honey.
I hit a thousand
I
downloads
am
today. So
proud. I am proud of
today
you.
was,
Oh my gosh.
uh, I know it's just been is it kept thank you and that's kind of kept my spirits up because I was in a really
Right.
dark place and I'm like I'm not good to anyone like this,
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
certainly not going to look for someone, and I you know I'm worried about
Right.
myself, so I like let me find something to keep
Yeah.
myself occupied as opposed to let me just run out and find a man. And
Mhm.
my best advice
Mhm.
to anyone that you know lady out there that's feeling lonely or they're not sure if they can make it, like yeah you can. There's you will land on your feet. You don't
Yeah,
always
babe.
need a man to do that
Yeah,
because
they
sometimes
do.
they're more
Do
trouble
it.
than they're
And
worth,
they don't
and
seem to
then
sometimes.
they
Sometimes
hurt your
they don't.
feelings. So and then you feel even
Right.
worse. You
Like
know they jerk you around, and then you feel even worse about yourself. And it's not worth it. It's really not. And it's what else
right.
will make you what makes you happy. You know, and do those things. And
Yeah.
if you start doing those things that bring you
Right.
joy or that makes you happy, that's when you're raising your own
Right.
vibration and
Yeah.
you're putting out that
Exactly.
you'll get your shine back because you're in
Right.
your zone, and then someone will meet you where you
You're
are.
right. I
as
know I had
opposed to
came
you
up with
putting up
this
with
little
whatever dude
motto
chooses to give
probably
you.
last month. Sometimes I was like, I'm no longer going the extra mile to meet people. I mean, people exactly where they meet me at. So like, if you barely, hardly, and whatever deal with me, then I'm doing the same thing for you. You're
Yep.
no longer getting 50% from me anymore, and you're only giving me 10%. We no longer putting in 80% for 20%. Like, oh, I'm done with that. I have done that. I've been that. That is the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone should be tired of it. Once you get past a certain age and you've had certain experiences like
You
being
know,
married and having kids, no one has time for a whole
yeah,
bunch of nonsense. What's that expression? Water seeks its own level. So, keep you want
maybe.
to just get yourself to a high tide. When you're there, you
Exactly.
will find that someone will meet you there. When you're in low tide, you're gonna get
You're
all them
right, though.
bottom
You're so
feeders.
right. I'm just telling you. I'm like, in 2020 is when like I felt like I hit that I need to get on this spiritual journey. That's the year that I started my boutique. I started up my very first podcast show, which was
Cool. Mm,
yes, it was called Motivational Talk.
cool.
With me. I was, basically my mental health issues with whatever ended or whatever, whatever. Anyway, that's not the point. When I first got onto this spiritual journey, I was like, a lot of things changed for me. I didn't want to deal with me anymore. I was very, and I'm
Mm,
still like that actually. I'm very particular about who I have around me because there was a lot of things about myself that I didn't like. I was like, you know what? I don't like this about me, this, that, third. Something changed a lot of things. So I started getting people away from me and I started dealing with men because I felt like me doing these things, me dealing with these type of people and me going around them type of vibrations kept my vibrations at a place where I didn't like myself. And I got tired of it. So when my spiritual journey first started, it was so scary.
hmm
It's so scary. When you first come into it, it start making
Yeah,
sense
it
and
always
like
is.
things that I
It
realized that I
always is,
wasn't
though.
paying attention to before. And all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 hitting you in the face like wake up. Wake up.
I know it's true.
Yeah.
It is absolutely true.
Mhm.
But I will give you credit though, because one thing
Okay.
about 2020, which is, of course,
Oh
everyone gives
my
zero
God.
stars, do not recommend, because that was that was not good for anybody. you know, um,
Yeah.
it's there's people there. You could tell when
Mhm.
people did one or two things. Either they went in. For me, that was I
Yeah.
took a job in a city I'd never
Oh,
lived
okay.
in before, which was a couple hours away from my husband
Mhm.
and my puppies. And for a startup that was failing, and I wasn't getting
Mhm.
paid, and I'm just sitting in this apartment by
Yeah.
myself, and that's when I started. The
Yeah.
seed was germinating, but that alone time was important. It made
Right.
me either people like you did, you go
Right.
inside and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
these things aren't working out. I have to do something differently.
Yes.
And 2020 really, really laid it
You
out for people. And
can.
you
No,
could
you
tell
can. You really
who did the
you
self work
can.
with all that
I
time
thought it
and who
was
did not. All them people killing themselves is like, we gotta get out of the house, and I'm gonna
But
break
see,
down the doors of the
this the
stores, and
beauty
I gotta go
of
have a
going into
burger, and I
2020.
gotta.
Like that did not
It's like, oh,
affect me because at that time I was already in the house for a while or whatever. So I was already sitting with myself. But I don't know. It was just once everybody started going through that
hmm
year, and basically they started going to get that virus, the shots or whatever, and I was like, y'all ready to get that? And they was like, God told me to do this and God told me to do that, and I'm like, what passage that in? Because the passage that I read told me not to tread man because they the one who
Listen,
putting out these man-made viruses. You feel me?
it's like I'm like, look, I was felt
Yeah,
that
they
I
do.
wanted to, you know, people have got to make their own decisions,
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm gonna do what I feel is best for me, but I get really, immediately start you'll get the eyebrow from me
right.
to say, well,
Hello.
Jesus said
Okay.
and God said, listen, that's between you and them, okay?
Right.
And if you have that kind of relationship, that's fantastic, but
Mm-hmm.
it just became real apparent once we got there was so much time that people had an opportunity to sit with themselves and go, because you found out there were so many divorces. These people have not spent that much time
Do
with
you
their
hear me?
spouse. They never spent that much time with their kids, And it's like, yeah, how many of y'all went up and want
Right.
to beat up the
Right.
teacher because your kid was being terrible? You're with your kid now. Your kid sucks. Your kid's awful. And now you spent 8 hours with your lousy kid, and
I
now
know that
you
was a
understand the
hard year
teacher
for a lot
perfectly,
of
don't
people.
you?
I'm glad
You
that I
know?
didn't have to go through many major backlashes of what 2020 brought for a lot of people. The only thing that I could say did scare me for 2020 was tapping into this spirituality and realizing what's real and what's not.
Mm. Yeah, and it was a really it was
Yeah.
an opportunity for people to figure stuff out. It was
Yeah.
literally a free pass to get your shit together. It really was. And to sort things out, because now you're
Right.
stuck with this person that you
Right.
married that you only see 4 or 5 hours a day. Now you with them all the time. So what are you going to do about that? It's like, wow, you know what? I really don't even like you. Why are we here? Or it's
Yeah.
like, okay, wow, this is how we're going to work through this.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
made it, and some people put, it was putting in the effort.
Yes.
Humans are really
Yes.
great at sitting and pointing at other people and saying, well, this is wrong with that person, and why do they do this, and
Yes.
they should be doing that. But the second that they
Do
have to
you hear me?
focus on themselves,
The
it's a
self
it's
work is
a
hard
failure
because
mission.
let me tell
Because
you one
self-work is
thing about
hard.
self work that I done
Self-work
noticed
is
because
very
I am
difficult.
still self working on me, baby. Like I said, 2020, it do not. 2020 was the year when it,
Oh,
like I
it
said,
doesn't end.
everything just
It never
came
ends.
into like, you know what I'm saying, get something together, whatever, whatever. And so, sorry, I get coughing, honey. Excuse me. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, yeah. 2020, I was just
2020, you were
starting to
doing
get
your,
that vibe. Like I
you were just
need to
starting to get that
change
vibe.
some things about me because the wanting to have my own business, I knew that I always wanted it. I knew that I always wanted it in my heart. I promise you, I talked about it a lot, not all the time, but often on, I would say, I want my own business, this, that, and third. So when 2020 came in, it just came out of nowhere. I just started doing stuff. Like when they started sending all that money, I started ordering inventory. I ain't know nothing about what I was doing. I did not have no clue at all what I was doing. I just started doing it. I just realized that I'm applying for my EIN number for my business, my LLC. I started applying for that. Out of nowhere, I ain't know nothing about that. It just started happening. So it was like one of those type of moments where I felt like the spirituality
Mm-hmm.
chose me. Oh, I'm so
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes it
mm-hmm.
gets in you, and I think that's pretty much where
Yeah.
I was, because I was in a dark place coming
Mm-hmm.
after my husband passed, and I realized I have to move. I can't afford to stay here. Yeah, I have to pick up and go someplace else. And
Yeah.
I've moved so much in the last few years. It's just very demoralizing.
Mm.
And but I got to a point, and I had two jobs,
Wow.
and then I got laid off my second job, and
Great
I'm
job.
like, well, that's bad. This is not good.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at this
Yeah.
differently. I'm finally going
Yeah.
to put the effort in to doing this podcast and doing this thing. It's now or never. I'm never going to not be
Right.
up against it. So if I'm going to be up against it, let me be doing something that I like, and something
Right.
that I feel strongly about, and that I feel can
Mm.
help other people. And that always
Okay.
lifts you up when you feel like, okay, I'm
That's
not judging
definitely
other
the
people, I'm
reason why
helping
I
other
hopped
people.
into the podcast
You
with
have a
my business.
choice to
Okay,
do
so once I
that.
started that
you
business,
know
I started seeing that podcasting was on the rise. It was, and so like it was something that I was following. It was basically telling me, how to
hmm
run my business, advertise, and promote and stuff. So basically, it was like start your podcast or whatever. And I knew that I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how. I was like, how do you use your voice to help people? I ain't know where to start. I ain't know what to talk about. I ain't know what topics I wanted to be on. So I had to sit down with myself and think about some things that felt most important to me. And so I got into topic. I was like, you know what? I do fight a lot of mental disorders and stuff, and people don't talk
hmm
about this stuff. My own family don't even talk about this type of stuff or what be going on with folks. Like, we see it as behavioral problems. We see it as somebody just
oh
acting out because they just
no.
acting out without understanding the root cause of why they're acting out in the first place. So that's why I picked up podcasting and I got around the mental health and spirituality because all of that 2020, my skin raised up and something changed,
hmm
and I just been on that ever since.
yeah, you got to ride that wave, because I mean,
Right,
life does come in waves, and you want to be able to catch it while you
right,
can,
right.
and use that energy as best you can.
Yeah.
But as far as mental, yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And being an
Right.
exer, my parents are boomer. They
Yeah.
just dealt with it. They were just like any
Yeah.
type of mental
Because
illness
they
or
they
mental
didn't have a lot
disorder or
of
something. You were just
expertise
crazy, and it's like,
on
no, that's not how this
what we're
works. It's
going
just
through,
that
you know what I'm saying? They didn't have a lot of knowledge about that back then, so yeah.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, they didn't really have diagnosis for it. And
Mhm.
then now
Yeah.
that in with our generation, not knowing which one you're part of, but for us, it was
Right.
all about Gen X. For us, it was just like,
Yeah.
man, suck
Yeah.
it up,
I'm
kid.
an
Just
80s
suck it up.
baby,
Nothing's
so
wrong
I
with you.
think I'm
Deal
for
with
the
it.
genius. So you're right.
Figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we joke about that, but it really is true. It
Yeah.
is 100%
Yeah.
true. Your parents love this to death, but they were at
Mhm.
the point where it's like, wow, in context, you figure this is our
Right.
my parents became of the age, and most exers, our
Right.
parents became a point where they were making as much money as they were
Mhm.
going to make. We were born in the late 60s, early 70s, as late as
Right.
1980, and at that point that's when people were making money and they were partying and they were doing all these things. And it's
Yeah.
like, my kids got more than two brain cells to rub together. It's all good, they've got it. And the women
Right.
were like, wait, I have credit, I can earn my own money, I can do my own thing,
Right.
dude. Get pack your stuff
I
and
know
get
that's
out.
right.
It's like, I don't have to be married to you, you're awful. So there was this whole generation of women who had a whole different thing, and then that's how we ended up being latchkey
Yeah.
kids and figuring out how to, you know, we just became what we were. But our parents did not want to hear
Right.
that. What is this? What do you
You're
mean
right.
manic
And
depression? What does that
they
even mean?
don't
What is ADHD?
know
It didn't even
a
exist.
lot
So
of
we
the
had to
spiritual
cope.
demons
We
like
had to cope.
that we had to deal with now, and the depression. That is a demon. I'm gonna be real. People don't like to get in the Bible and they don't like to apply the
Yeah.
biblicalness to our reality for some reason. But we're fighting demons. That's what all these
Mm.
emotions are that we all harbor inside of us for whatever reason. And so yeah,
Yeah,
right,
we all have this. So they say, I have my demons, or we all have our demons. Yeah, just some
yeah,
of them we create, and some of
right,
them are just kind of there, and then we have to figure out how we're going to do with them. Now, is that our own test? Is it our own spiritual test? Who knows? But we have to. The big thing is being able to
mhm,
recognize it and say, okay, well, and for us, is
right,
especially now that we're getting
uh-huh.
late diagnosed. I have so many friends now that are around my age where we're late diagnosed ADHD, we're late diagnosed mild autism,
Man, do
and
we
it's like,
listen?
holy crap, I made it into my 40s and
I didn't even know
50s
that
with
I had
this.
a little bit such of that
Why didn't anybody
ADHD or
tell
whatever
me
you want to
that I
call it,
was this
because
freaking
I
weird?
felt out that when your brain can't stay onto something for too long, because I lose interest in things quick, especially if it don't bring me the immediate satisfaction that I want. If I don't see the results that I expect, then I lose interest in things. I did
Mm-hmm.
not know that that was
Yeah.
just like a form of ADHD or something like that. I was reading up some stuff and it said that if your brain
Yeah. Because it's hyper focus or nothing. It's
Mhm.
like either, and literally, like I said, once I got focused on the podcast, I said, this is saving
Yeah.
my life because I was in such a really bad place. It gave me something to hyper focus on. And I mean, I kind of suspected that
Yeah.
I haven't had it diagnosed yet, but I'm 99% sure that I do. Looking at my computer now, I have two screens and three email accounts
Right.
open, and each
Mhm.
each browser has like 43 tabs, and I'm not even exaggerating.
I know I have
I've
a
got
little touch of
I'm looking
OCD
at it, and
because
it,
I
and it
can't
makes
stand for
sense
my
to
stuff to
me.
be cluttered because I get to
And
clearing out
yeah,
stuff.
but
And like my photo gallery, I make all my content myself. I had to immediately go behind myself and delete all that because I
yeah,
can't stand to see all that. So,
yeah. I'm like that about my mailbox,
uh,
but I'm one of those, like, if I'm searching for something, especially because what I do requires a fair amount of
right.
research. I don't want to put anything, especially since
Right.
I'm doing the blogs too. Yeah, I don't want to put anything that's inaccurate. If I
Yeah.
have an opinion, or if I'm like,
Yeah.
I know I feel a certain way about this, but where did I get that from? So because there's a lot of research, I'll be looking for something and then find something else and be like, oh, I got to go back to that later. Oh, I got to go back to that later. Oh, I got to keep that. Now I look up and the tabs are this tiny. You can barely even see the symbol of the website. It's so tiny because I have so many tabs. It's bad. It's
Yeah.
bad. And then, and then Google wants to update. And I'm like, no, I'll lose all 500
Yeah.
tabs. I'll never find this
Yeah.
again. I was like, I really need to go to a doctor and see if I need a
Yeah.
pill, and figure out, and finally understand with normal people,
Right.
function like
Um,
when they don't, when their brain doesn't work like this.
I know,
But I
because
also figure if I've made it
at
this
this point,
far,
I'm
I might as well
convinced
just
that
keep
we're
rocking
all
with it
living
because
with
right
it. We
now I'm the
just
most
don't
productive
know
I've been
that,
ever.
and some of us, what I'm saying, it just depends on what extent of how it affects you. I guess it depends on if you are a person who carries everything on your sleeve, or if you're one of them cold-hearted people who don't have emotions and things can just bounce off you and roll off you. I'm not that person. I am an empath, so I hold on to
Hmm.
every emotion.
Oh, I'm absolutely an empath.
Right? Yeah.
I'm one of those weird empaths. I'm extremely practical and I'm very centered, but I have to
Yeah.
isolate because
Right.
I will immediately walk someplace and it absorb all of it.
Right.
And there's also times where I have to completely decompress
Yeah.
off of news. I can't.
Uh,
I have to, but then there's days like my brain just goes, no, it's just too heavy, or it's too dark, or there's too much death, and
right.
I can't do it. I just can't take any more of that right now. And that's hard. When you're an empath, it's hard because there's so much that you want to do. You might have the part like, oh, I want to hang out with
Right.
my friends, or oh, I want to go to this party, or oh, I want to go do this thing or this event. And then you get there and it's an
Yeah.
immediate sensory overload. And by the
Oh
time you
my
come home,
God.
you just feel like an
And we
ashtray.
don't really pay the time. It's so crazy because I enjoyed this conversation so much. Like
Oh
you
my goodness.
came in, you did exactly what I needed you to do, which was make me feel like that I am not crazy when I talk about narcissistic people, relationships, the things that we had to deal with, and what we recognize in our relationships. Because I recognize a lot, so I needed you to come in and speak on that, and you delivered the message. Your story is very beautiful, even though we only get like a glimpse into it because I didn't ask too many
Oh, thank you.
questions because I don't know if people are comfortable enough to open up too deep into their relationships. But you shared just enough insight with us to make us feel like
Ah,
we got to do the inner work on ourselves. We got to look out for the signs, the red flags and stuff, and recognize that. And basically, just don't feel like you're a shitty person when you recognize these things. There's nothing wrong with you. Right, right.
yeah.
That's right,
Keep them
Mama.
vibrations high. Keep that tide high,
Right. Okay, so you can
and you will get
announce when your
water
podcast
seeks
is,
its own
so
level.
that my followers can go and look for your podcast, get them your name and the days that you do your podcasting.
Oh, great. Well, it
Okay.
is Urban Lady Prepper,
Right.
and it's pretty much that across the board. I'm on Podbean, so if you're on Podbean, it would be urbanladyprepper.podbean.com. The website is urbanladyprepper.com. I put up, and it's about
Okay.
practical
Beautiful.
preparedness for single moms and single women.
Right.
And I put up
That is
a fresh blog every Wednesday and
that is
Friday,
beautiful.
and the
All right,
podcast
you
is
guys. So
every
you know that
Sunday
you could go and
or on
find her
Sunday
on
morning.
Podbean. Try to find anywhere where the podcasts are distributed. Look for Urban Lady Prepper. She's on all the socials, baby, on all the socials. I promise you,
Yep,
you
and
will
all
get
the
some
socials.
insightful information if you go and sign up for her and also sign up for me as well. And we will try to get her back on this podcast soon. I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for giving us the
Mhm.
insights tonight, love. We appreciate it.
Me
And we got something
too. Oh, well,
that
thank
we say
you.
this.
Great talking to you. Thanks
All
everyone for
right.
listening.
Okay, thank you.